Shifting focus to the United States now, the U.S. national debt has crossed a staggering milestone, $40 trillion for the first time. The debt has more than doubled in less than a decade, raising fresh concerns about the cost of borrowing, government spending, and the pressure on future budgets. Now, the Treasury says the total U.S. government debt stood at $40.047 trillion on Tuesday. Of that, about $32.3 trillion is debt held by the public, while $7.8 trillion is held by government accounts. The total has more than doubled from $19.95 trillion in January 2027, and the latest trillion-dollar jump came in less than 5 months, from $39 trillion to more than $40 trillion. The increase accelerated during the COVID-19 pandemic, when Washington borrowed heavily to fund emergency relief. Public debt rose by about $7.8 trillion during President Trump's first term, with more than half accumulating during the pandemic response. Under former President Biden, public debt increased another $8.4 trillion amid pandemic recovery spending, infrastructure investment, and clean energy programs. Since Trump returned to office in January 2025, public debt has risen another $3.8 trillion. The problem is not just the size of the debt, it is the cost of servicing it. The U.S. spends roughly $1.1 trillion a year on interest. In the first 10 months of fiscal 2026, interest costs overtook Medicare spending, making debt service the second largest federal budget item after Social Security. And in July alone, the number saw a $432 billion federal deficit, one of the largest monthly gaps on record. Higher debt means the government needs to borrow more, and investors can demand higher returns to lend that money. The 30-year Treasury yield recently reached around 5.34%, its highest level in nearly 2 decades. That matters beyond Washington. Higher Treasury yields can push up borrowing costs for mortgages, and also car loans and businesses. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act could add another $4.7 trillion to the debt. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is also trying to ease pressure in longer-term bonds, doubling certain Treasury buyback operations to at least $4 billion per operation. But the underlying challenge remains: Washington is spending considerably more than it collects in revenue.